Well, good morning, and I'm just going to get my coffee and then we're going to sit down and chat. I'm up at the house today because Dixie, my spaniel, had an operation yesterday. She had, what's it called, a mast tumour taken out of her back. And she's fine. You know, the operation went really well and she's, back and bright. But I thought I'd just like to keep an eye on her, and I would like her up here in the house rather than down in the workshop. And so that's that. So I thought, well, I'll just chat to you from here. So I have a special mug here, and I'll turn it around so you can see the writing. Here we go, Seeds of Hope. And this is a very special mug to me. I got one. They're by the potter Makiko Hastings, who works in Yorkshire. She's a Japanese potter. And I bought myself one of these mugs. And then my friend Eve was going through really tough cancer treatment. And I decided that I would give the mug to her. So gave the mug to her, and then I contacted Mikiko and said, oh, could you make me another one? And she has, and she doesn't release that much pottery each year, and I felt very honoured that she doesn't repeat things either. So I felt very, very honoured that she made the new mug for me, and it arrived a couple of weeks ago, and this is its first outing. It's absolutely beautiful. Look, these birds there. Thanks. So, anyway, I'll get the camera turned around. We can have a chat. So here I am working in the sunroom today, and I'm wanting to talk about setting intentions and what I sort of like worked on over this last year and the results and all of that kind of thing, and then what I'm thinking of doing for next year. So here I am sitting with my diary here, which is 2025. Then it says, why walk when you can fly, which is from a Mary Chapin Carpenter song. If you've not been here before, my name is Jane and I'm a textile artist. I'm based right in the heart of Scotland, and I come here every Friday and I talk about creativity and running a small business and connecting to nature and really how you can live your life a little bit differently. And I also talk about chronic illness as well. So the reason that I want to talk about intentions is that I always find New Year resolutions really difficult. There's such a draw there, isn't there? This kind of like blank slate, new year, new me, and you rack up all the things that you're going to do, and it's kind of really quite list driven and achievement driven often, and I have always failed at them. Every single year I would fail. So a couple of years ago I changed what I did, and I decided that instead of having resolutions I would have intentions, slightly different, and that I would treat it as a series of experiments. And I have talked about this before. So 2 years ago I decided that I was going to work around the intention of having more freedom in my life. I was finding sort of business and life and things, I'd set up things that didn't feel very free. So I worked on changing the business a little bit so I had more freedom, changing the way I live my life, just facing up to the fact that I had put in lots and lots of these barriers. And that culminated in booking a month-long trip to Italy, which I took in the early spring of this year. And then at this time last year, I moved on from freedom, and I decided that I would spend a year concentrating on physical well-being. And it's because of this that I thought I'll come on here and chat to you about it, because last week I was working on a new introduction kind of video for members of the studio club, because I'm changing things in January, so I need to have a new video because that one's out of date, even though it's about a year, just over a year old. And when I watched the video, goodness, it was like a different person. And I think it's one of these things that when you don't have, or rather it's only when you do have some kind of empirical thing, you can go back and watch a video or read something that you've written or whatever, that you get this idea of how far you have come. So, physical well-being. I have, as many of you will know, a chronic illness called Addison's disease, and I have various other autoimmune diseases that have come along for the ride. And I think when you have a chronic illness, it is very easy for that to affect you psychologically. So with chronic illness, there is a massive amount of shame that comes with it. It's not justified shame. Nobody asks to have chronic illness. It's just something that seems to appear. And with that, there comes often, obviously these are not always, lots of people are not affected by this, but I have seen in a lot of people that there is a kind of feeling that your body is disconnected from the rest of you, from your mind, from your personality, from anything. And that can lead to a bit of neglect. It's kind of like, it just becomes this covering or vessel for your personality. And I would definitely had found that happened to me. And then these combine the sort of the shame and the guilt and the feeling that your body is already broken, so should just be kind of pushed off to the side and ignored, and a feeling that you're not worth it. That's definitely what I feel, that I would be happy to go and do things that fed my mind or my creativity or just my sense of, freedom or belonging or interest, that kind of thing. But when it came down to my body, I wasn't prepared to spend time or money or love or anything. And that, I recognised it, and that's what I wanted to change. So I decided this time last year that I was going to concentrate on my physical well-being, and by that I meant very much the things that were not the chronic illness, because there's not a lot I can do about chronic illness, but I have to accept that there are a whole load of things around that I can do things with, that I can make a difference with. So that's what I decided to do. And so I took this physical well-being and I decided that I wanted to do it in a really nurturing way. So it's doing something about my physical well-being in a really nurturing way. And then my kind of structure for doing it, which for anybody who's going through Bloom will recognise this very much because it is exactly what we do in Bloom, is to take the zodiac sign each month and to use that as a lens to re-examine my task. So, for example, in April, May, which is Taurus, Taurus is all about loving sensuality and softness and luxury, and, well, not necessarily luxury, but things that are, taste good, smell good, feel good, all of that kind of thing. So in April, May this year, I went through drawers and cupboards and I found so many bath oils and moisturizers and hand creams and all of these things that I had been given as gifts but had not used because I was saving them. Now, goodness knows what I thought I was saving them for, because, you know, I don't know, some kind of amazing thing where I needed a whole bottle of luxury bath oil. You know, it's just, it was bizarre. So I actively used them. You know, it was a kind of, and it turned out to be completely cost neutral, because I had these things, and I had samples of things, you know, out of magazines or that had come with things. And I just started to use them up, and they were lovely, you know, and it changed my mood, and it changed the way that I thought of myself and the way that I treated myself. And then taking another example, when we got to Virgo and that kind of structure and organization and tactics things, I was able to use that kind of lens, that seeing through, thinking, how can this affect me, to really organize snack food for traveling. We were going on holiday. I know that this sounds banal, but this is what made the difference. So I had little tubs that were, you know, seeds and nuts and dark chocolate, so that I wouldn't have to have a muffin in the airport, because that's all that was there to eat, or a bacon roll or a cinnamon bun or whatever. But I could have my seeds and yogurt, whatever. So I have been doing this for the last year. You know, we have things like, I mean, you will have seen all of this. If you watch my videos, you will have seen all of this, because it's things like stopping biting my nails. It's things like wearing the red lipstick. It's, you know, I wear perfume, and I treat myself really, really nicely. And in this year, I have, you know, if I'm going to list the things that have happened, you know, I've grown my nails, I've lost 13 kilos, my waist size is now down so that it is not a sort of health problem. I am a bit stronger. I wear perfume. I have my hair cut. I will spend money on going for a massage if I get a sore back. I went for a facial. I use body oils. If people give me body oils, I will use them. It's made a big difference, and I think that you can see it just in the way I carry myself. And I'm sleeping much better. I feel more alive. I feel more positive. Now, I wouldn't say that everything went plain sailing. In April, at Easter this year, I very stupidly went for a long walk in barefoot shoes that I hadn't worn for a while. And after about a mile, I knew that my foot was sore. I continued on my walk. Ever since then, I have been in pain with a damaged Achilles tendon. And I left that until June, maybe, and went and got it kind of like sorted. I have insoles. I had some anti-inflammatories for the bursitis that had developed and things, but it's been a really slow journey, and that has definitely meant that I've been taking less exercise than I would normally. So the fact that I've managed to change all of these things while being really hobbled by my ridiculous foot, I find fairly amazing. So the winter solstice this year has a lot to follow, because obviously I've been working on my physical health. That has worked brilliantly. Everything is now quite embedded, I think, in the way that I want to live. And I know that I can ask that question, does it nurture me or does it not? And I'm not saying I always go for the things that are the nurturing example, but I now will ask the question and modify a bit. So this year, what am I going to do this year? Well, I have decided that I am going to work on simplifying my life, and that I am going to do it in a joyous way. I am going to rejoice in simplifying my life. Now, anybody who knows me, oh no, this is going to not be, it's not a great fit. It is a big ask. I am an attractor of chaos. I am somebody who really has a tendency to bite off big projects. My eyes are definitely bigger than my stomach when it comes to aspirations for things. So it is going to be really interesting. And I'm sure there's going to be some decluttering, but I don't think it's just going to be about clearing space. And I am really, really looking forward to a year's journey through joyous simplification. I'll let you know how I get on. And I hope that that kind of makes sense, and that it gives you a bit of an alternative to lists of things to do, lists of things to change. It's much more of going with your personality and experimenting with kind of gentleness and joy. What makes a difference for me is not beating myself up, not berating myself, not thinking that I am doing things wrong. What works for me is bolstering, nurturing, being supportive, not making excuses, taking responsibility for things, but not in a beaten up way. And I think that this is partly to do with personality. A couple of days ago, I took Dixie for a checkup to see whether we could go ahead with the operation. And as we walked from the car park to the vet's, there was a terrible noise. There was shouting, there was banging. It made me freeze, and it made Dixie freeze. She just stopped on her lead. She wouldn't walk further. And I felt myself tense up and my breathing go funny and things. And then I realised that it wasn't coming from the vets at all. It was coming from an exercise class in a kind of a gym next to the vets. And the shouting would have been part of, I don't know, a spin class or circuits or something. And I know that lots of people find being shouted at while they sweat a really useful way of getting exercise. But for me, if somebody shouts at me, I would leave. That is my personality. I find it so stressful, so counterproductive, that I would just be packing up my things and leaving that class. But what I have found is that I can get tangible results to my well-being by being really nice to myself. So that is my message. There we go. There's my festive message. Be nice to yourself. See the joy. don't use it as an excuse, but just find ways to bring the changes that you're wanting with joy and gentleness and rejoicing. Now, I am hoping to put up a video next Friday, but I am very aware that at this time of year, there are lots and lots of brilliant intentions get bypassed. So if it's not up next week, it will be up in January. And I hope that you have a fantastic festive season. And cheers, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.